All right. And I see we've got some hands raised. Avery Anderson has been kind enough to join us. Jacob, I'll let you get us started.
Avery, how's it going today?
You doing? It's going good. What about you?
Oh, it's good. It's good. It's good to see the warm weather return, right? If you want to call this warm.
Facts. I'm tired of this negative degree weather.
Oh, it's awful. It's awful. Hey, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the defense right now, the way you guys are playing. How do you feel like the defense is playing?
I feel like it's going amazing right now. Everybody's doing what they're supposed to do on defense, like talking, blocking shots, being in the right positions on defense, and helping each other. And that's all coming in well in practice.
How did this zone defense kind of come about this year? You didn't play it much last year, so what goes into developing that so suddenly? I guess maybe is the way I'm asking.
It came about in the Marquette game, and I didn't play that game because Chris was sick with COVID. So, and since he's my roommate, I couldn't join the team and play that game. But it all came about in the Marquette game when they had went to it, and I say the second half, and it
Yeah.
really amped up the game and turned up the intensity. And so since that, we just kept working on it in practice, and it's just been a good tool for us to use in the game.
I remember that game. Was that kind of an on the fly thing, or was that something you guys have been working on?
We was working on it, but not to the extent to play like throughout the whole game now, like we're doing now.
How much do you guys love zone? It feels like you're running it more and more.
I feel like it's a great tool, and everybody's loving it because we get steals and we get to do what we like to do, and that's get in transition.
And for you, this the last one for me for now, but with Bryce and Rondell up there with you on that zone, how effective are you three together on the floor?
It's crazy because we all active, and so it causes havoc between the two guards up top and whoever bring the ball up because they don't know what to do because you got two guys that's really active on the ball and in the middle of the zone that could fly out to the three and take away the middle.
Awesome. Thanks, Avery.
Yes, sir.
Next question, Marshall Scott. Go ahead, Marshall.
Yeah, Avery, what inspired the new hairdo?
I mean, I just wanted to try something different. I ain't never tried nothing like with my hair before, so Chris had put me on his wave to get some braids, so I just tried to put it on.
You like it? Is it going to stick around?
Probably for a minute. For a minute.
All right. We talked last time, a couple weeks ago, I think, about, kind of like the mixtape scene and you and Mac McClung and stuff like that. How cool was it, I guess, kind of being a part of those, always having, I'm sure the baseline was full of camera guys. How cool was that in high school?
It was very exciting, I would say, because coming up in middle school, I didn't really have like a lot of hype on my name. So, and how it came about was my first high school playoff. Well, not my first high school playoff game. I would say in the third round, we had played DeSoto, and it was against Marquise Bolden and like all them other guys. And Brad, the video dude, Ball's Life guy, he was at the game. And so, and I had a terrible game. And I don't even know why he had texted me after the game because that's how bad it was. And so he had texted me after the game and said, "Keep going, young fella. I'll be watching." And so ever since that, I just kept grinding. That's how I took off.
What year was that in high school?
Uh, I would say 2019. I graduated. 2018, 2017, 2016.
So sophomore year, or is it freshman year?
Freshman year.
Okay. So whenever you see, the camera guys on the baseline and stuff, did that kind of give you a boost going in the game? So, because you've talked in the past, like, hey, the competition in high school is not always going to be the best, but I imagine that give you some kind of boost to make some highlights.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I'm a high level performer, so whenever the cameras is on, then that's when I go to work.
Was there ever a naysayer thing about you that, oh, he's a mixtape kid, but I don't know how good he'll actually be in college? Were there people that kind of had that mindset of you?
I would say some people probably said that, but me, I just tune all that out and go out and play because I know what I could do on the court.
Gotcha. The kind of reason I asked that is Mac McClung. He was another one of those mixtape kind of guys, but he wasn't very highly recruited. You're obviously like a 4-star guy in a little bit, but what do you think maybe turned programs off of a guy like Mac, as to where whenever you're making highlights, you were getting all the offers and stuff?
I would say probably because coaches really don't like the flashy type game. They like simple games, like probably not a no look pass or something, just a straight kick or something like that. But it's a part of the game, and sometimes you may have to do a no-look pass to look your defender off. So I would say it's a part of the game. Flashiness is a part of the game sometimes.
Whenever you go for a no look pass or a jelly or something in college, are you a little worried like, if I don't pull this off, Mike's going to be a little mad at that I tried this?
Yes, but at the same time, Coach Mike knows I'm that type of guy, and that's my game, and he wants me to beat me on the court. So I like Coach B for that.
I appreciate it, Avery.
Yes, sir.
Next question is from Frank Bonner. Go ahead, Frank.
Hey, Avery, how's it going?
How you doing, sir?
Doing well. You talked about flashiness being a part of the game. How do you find that balance of in-game, not being too flashy, trying to do too much, and towing that line?
I would say, because I had cut a lot of that off because it's times, like you said, you could use it, and sometimes you can't. So I would say fast breaks, you could use it. Probably enter it in the post. You could look your defender off and feed the post. But like I would say, the second half, around like 4 minutes, it's no time to be flashy because that's when you got to dig deep and get the job done at the end of the game.
And then with your game, your best out in the fast break, how much of the defense fuels that for you being able to get out there like that?
A whole bunch, because I know if I could turn up the defensive level in the first half for my team, then I know it's going to cause havoc throughout the whole game. And so that's one thing I really pride myself in, is starting the energy up high in the first half so we could get out and run.
And in these last few games, Kalib and MA have been real strong for you guys. Them having that inside presence, what does that do for the guard play, having that inside?
It's really big because now the coaches can't really key on the guard play because you got to worry about the big play down low. And so Kalib and MA, they being spectacular on the glass and just scoring around the rim, they could just kick it out for us guards to knock down shots. And so that's why we like playing through them now.
Appreciate you.
No problem.
Jacob, you have a follow-up? Go ahead.
Avery, going back to kind of what Marshall asked about mixtapes and Mac McClung, what do you think of Mac McClung's mixtapes?
Oh, it's sweet. Because he could do it all, I'll say. He has bounce, he could pass, he could shoot, and he could get to the rack with ease. So I love his game.
What's it like trying to defend him now?
I would say it's pretty tough, but as a defender, you usually got to lock in on the waist, a defender's waist for me. And the waist is going to tell you wherever he's going. And that's what my dad tells me to lock in on.
So did you ever, on the mixtape scene, I don't know how this works necessarily. I'm never even close to having a mixtape in my life. Uh-huh. So compare mixtapes? Like, how does that work? How do you guys pass that around,
I couldn't hear you.
Do you compare mixtapes? Do you pass those around? Like, how does the mixtape world work, I guess is what I'm asking.
I would just say you compare, because that's how you could tell, like, if this dude is better than him, or if this guy could probably shoot better than this guy could dunk better than this guy. So I would say it's just a comparison of other players.
I'm just curious because, like I said, I was nowhere ever close to that ability to create a mixtape. So it's fun. Speaking of Texas Tech next week, you guys went to overtime with them before. So what do you take from that going into this game?
I would say we got to keep pushing because the game could, like you said, go into overtime again. So having that competitive stamina throughout the game, we just got to keep competing.
Awesome. Thanks, Avery.
Yes, sir.
Do we have any other follow-up questions for Avery? Sounds good. Hey, we appreciate you joining us today, Avery.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all.
And we've got a dancing Kalib Boone right here in the wings, so we'll just have him dance on in.
He always dance.
I respect your mixtape, man. I really did. All
right, Mr. Steven.
Thank you, sir.
But the lip was too big in all of them, though. That was the only issue I had with it.
Raise your camera just a touch. All right.
I wasn't kidding when I said he was dancing the whole time. Kalib Boone, ladies and gentlemen. We have our first question from Jacob Unruh. Go ahead, Jacob.
Caleb, how's it going today?
That's going great, man. Had a great day of practice, man.
Good, good. Well, I'm going to start out. So we're talking about mixtapes. Do you have a mixtape that I don't know about?
Yeah. So I had a little commitment mixtape from my man back when I used to play for PWP, Johnny Dash. I had a couple. Like I had a little short one from Courtside Films, Hoop Addicts. I had a couple, but none like Avery's though. Avery's mixtapes, but.
On a different topic, I was curious. You've been finding yourself lately, and you've talked openly about not wanting to get in your head too much and stuff. Are there exercises? Are there tricks? What are you doing to kind of stay out of your own way, quote unquote, the way you've talked?
Yeah, I just bind like Kate and Coach Mike and everybody said it best. I think at the beginning of the season, I just put too much like expectations on my shoulders, and like I overthought a lot of things. Lately, I just honestly, after I talked to y'all, told y'all how I felt like that I haven't been playing my best for my team and everything. I just said I'm just do the little things and be like commit to my role. That's all I do.
How do you try to spread that around to help others on the team maybe that might have those issues?
Yeah, I learned just me hooping the little things I do helps my team. So like example, because we watched film about it, the first play against the Iowa State game was a lob because I set a good screen and I rolled hard to the basket. And then the second time, K got a three because I set a screen, I rolled to the basket hard, and like the defense had to help over, so K had a wide open three. Like that, those things make me feel good because I'm like, okay, I'm just not thinking about myself. I'm not one of those people that worry about just beating me. I like to worry about my teammates. So doing stuff like that is like me spreading my positivity around. Plus, like y'all see me during the games, I smile, I laugh, I start dancing. So I just be in my own world basically when I hoop.
And the way you and MA are playing together, how big is that going into this final stretch when you've got Tech and OU twice and maybe West Virginia, Baylor? We don't really know yet, but you've got this tough stretch coming up. How big is that for you two?
It's good because me and we're two different. Like we have two different play styles. I'm obviously like a post player that likes to like back to the basket kind of guy. I can face up. M loves to face up and like loves to play the wing. So and we both crash. So it really helps both of us because if one doesn't get the offensive rebound, we know the other has the opportunity to get it. So playing with M just helps a lot. And then flows because then if I get rebound him running, he already has position probably to go still because he ran the floor or something like that. And it's just chemistry.
Awesome. Thanks, Caleb.
Our next question is from Marshall Scott. Go ahead, Marshall.
Yeah, Caleb, I'm sure last year if you had, questions about things, you probably went to what has the transition been like for you to kind of become the guy that, people are looking to among the posts for that kind of leadership?
It's been good. I would say I wasn't always the best at it during the season. At times, I wasn't coachable at times about it from some of my coaching styles. But like I said, that's when I was in my own head. But now, I just talk to my teammates like they talk to me. I talk to my coaches, talk to Coach Mike, talk to B-Rod, talk to everybody. Cannon especially. Cannon really helps me out a lot with my post-up defense, offense, and everything. So really, and then I try to tell them what I think. They tell me how they feel. I talk to them how they talk to me. It's just communication and having that bond with one another.
Gotcha. And we're talking mixtapes with Avery. Whenever I'm pretty sure you and Keelan were committed before he was, but whenever you see that he committed, I don't know how much you knew of him before, but did you look up his highlights and stuff on the internet?
I did, and I was like, okay. I said, "Ooh, Avery saucy." I said, "Okay, he got a little bag." I was like, "Okay," but Avery to me wasn't one of those players. I always just think okay, what can he do other than this on a camera? When I saw Avery's mixtape, I said, okay, Avery does this on a consistent basis. So this is just Avery. it's like he's not one of them one of those people that have a mixtape and then that doesn't do all that stuff. Like again, he's not like a one-time person. That's like Avery on a consistent basis.
So if you look up his highlights, what were kind of your first impressions of him? Because whenever I was watching, whenever he was just committed and stuff, I was like, oh, this kid's probably a little cocky, but he didn't seem anything like that.
And I was like, my first time, I was like, okay, Avery got some sauce to him. Like Avery got some handles, and Avery was explosive in high school. The funniest one is when he like took off like almost the free throw line, and then he started screaming and he banged his chest against like the little pad on the wall. And that's the funniest one to me, I think. And every time I see that, I just started laughing because that was the one I was made me think. I said, okay, no, this dude is bouncy. But then I also sat back in high school and said he wouldn't dunk on me though, and he still hasn't. So.
Appreciate it, Caleb.
Our next question is from Frank Bonner. Go ahead, Frank.
Hey, Caleb, how much of that goes on when you were going through your recruiting process of looking up other people that OSU had their eyes on or people who had already recruited?
Oh, it was probably like a thing that me and Keelan did every other day for like weeks, honestly. My high school coach, Coach Allison, he would like send us stuff like this dude is on, has OSU and they're his top 5, top 6, top 8. Go watch film on them. You might play with them. You might be playing against them because they also probably would have had like other Big 12 schools and on their list. So that happened a lot. But like Marcus, we like watch him on Marcus, Avery, obviously, Chris. We remember Chris because me and Keelan kind of tried out to play with Houston Hoops one summer, and we knew Chris back then. And we watched film on a lot. Avery and Marcus were the main two because, you know, they were the two that committed like the earliest, I think, because wasn't it Chris committed the latest? Yeah. So yeah.
And then going back to the leadership part, how do you still put your best foot forward in leading the younger guys when you're also dealing with issues your own?
I just be a positive person, not think about myself, because I can think about my own issues off the court because that is like me time. When I'm not hooping, that's Caleb's time. When I'm on the court, it's OSU's men's basketball time. That's family time right there. So I can't be the person that just thinks about themselves, think about himself, because then that mess up the whole chemistry of the team and everything.
And how much do you guys put any thought? You know, the West Virginia and Baylor games could obviously, you know, still be rescheduled, but might not be. Are you looking at that saying you hope to get another chance at redeeming those 2 losses, or is it just kind of like, you know, whoever's in front of us is who's in front of us?
Obviously we could control what we could control. Well, we love to play Baylor and West Virginia, of course, because I mean we owe them. We lost both of those games here at the crib, so that means we will have to go take them at their place. But I mean, if we're blessed to play those games, we're going to be ready to play. We're going to be ready to fight because both those games are going to be dog fights. But if we can't and we got to wait until the Big 12 tournament, then so be it. We just got to get ready for Tech and then OU.
Appreciate you.
Our next question is from Dean Rule. Go ahead, Dean.
How you doing today, Caleb?
Doing good. How about you?
I'm doing good. Just kind of change the conversation a little bit. Can you talk about Cade and just kind of the strength that he brings to the court when it comes to his playmaking and his passing?
I think honestly the one thing I like about him is like his vision. And like he's not like a kind of second guessive passer, because some point guards kind of worry about like their stats and like their assist to turnover ratio. Cade always goes out there, and like if he thinks our play is there, he's gonna make that play. He's not gonna regret it. And then if he messes up, we're gonna talk about it, and he's gonna try that same play again, and he's gonna make the right decision. Like Cade doesn't second guess himself, and that's the one thing I like about his playmaking and his vision. Because if he sees something, he sees it, and he sees it to the max, and he's just going to attack it.
Thank you.
Do you have a follow-up, Marshall? Go ahead.
Yeah, Caleb, you're talking about Cade and his passing. There was a lob he threw to you, I think it was in Lawrence, where he's like running away from the basket around the three-point line. He tosses it back. Did you think that ball had any chance of getting to you?
Oh yeah. No, yeah. It was like, because the thing with it though is y'all don't understand. When we played Texas, we could have had that level like three times, and like that was one of the for the Texas, when we played Texas here, that was literally one of the plays, because that play that we ran was the same play I got the lob at Lawrence. He tried to throw the lob again when we played Texas, but he said it slipped. So instead of him throwing the lob, he threw like a kind of bullet, and I was ready for the lob. So then when we was in Lawrence, Coach Mike was like, throw the lob. It's going to be there. So I said, okay, bet. He just threw it. I went to go get it. And I went back to the huddle. I said, but I was there all Texas. Why didn't we throw it against Texas too? And he was like, yeah, man, nah, we should have done that.
Appreciate it.
Frank, go ahead with your follow-up.
Yeah, since we're throwing out some Cade Cunningham questions, I wanted to ask, when he was coming back from his COVID protocol, Boynton said it was his decision to come off the bench because he felt like he needed to earn his spot back in the starting role, and you were playing well at that time. What does that say about him just being a teammate and his commitment to winning, no matter if it's about him or not?
I mean, that means a lot though, because yeah, he could have been like, no, I want my starting spot back, and then probably that would have been a decision for Coach Mike. But Cade knew like, no, I want to show you like he wants to earn it, and I appreciate that. I showed Cade that, you know, like he has fight in him, and which means a lot. Most people, if it was like a top lottery pick, and they came from that, they'd be like, no, I want it back now. I gotta go show people I still got it, all this stuff. He was like, nah, I'm gonna just let it come to me, and that's just a chill teammate. Honestly, because Coach Mike told me, and when he told me in my mind, I was like, man, I really don't care if I start or not, because I'm gonna play this way regardless. Cade starting, if I'm starting, really. So, but no, that was like tough though when Coach Mike told me. I was like, okay, bet. No, that's what's up.
Now, I was talking to one of his older teammates, and he said it doesn't matter whether, you know, he's talking about a teammate on a basketball court, or if Cade's teammate in a trivia game in class got a question right, he's always going to be the loudest and the biggest cheerleader for his teammate. How has that part of Cade been for you? Just him being so supportive.
Oh, Cade's been great, man. Like Cade, when you're in high school and you see like, oh, this dude might be a number one pick and everything, you start thinking like, well, he goes to college, he's probably like me kind of guy, like folks give me all the attention. He probably think everything has to be about himself, but like Cade has never been that kind of player. Like Cade knows when to flip the switch on and off, but like with experience and growth, that's everybody. But like Cade has never been like, okay, me, this is like, he's never said it's my team. Is where the Oklahoma State men's basketball team. So like Cade's never been that me kind of person. That's the one thing I love about him. He cheers for me, Avery, 1K, Ice, like it would be himself, and he's always happy for his teammates. So, I love that about Cade.
Appreciate you.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Caleb, for joining us. Feel free to dance your way off the screen. Go ahead.
Yeah. All right. That's like my bad.
Thank you, sir. We'll be right back with Coach Boynton. This thing started. Appreciate you joining us today. Obviously an interesting scheduling week, but it probably allows your team a little bit of extra downtime, some extra practice time, which you guys were looking forward to. Let us know how this week was going for your team.
It's been a week kind of like we thought we'd have at some point, where we kind of get disrupted and for a little bit there, I felt like I could rewind and replay that tape from preseason where we didn't know what the heck was going to happen next and when it was going to happen. So, but here we are. We at this point, we think, at least we feel like we know that our next game is going to be Monday against Tech, and we'll get ready for them.
Perfect. I will start it with Jacob. Go ahead, Jacob.
Mike, how are you today?
I'm great. Yourself?
I'm doing great. Hey, the last time you guys played Tech, you had a long layoff before you played them too. And then this isn't quite as long, obviously, but does a layoff like this kind of help you recharge, reboost, kind of, because you came out really strong out of that layoff last time. So do you kind of maybe think you can do that again, replicate that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing is it's such a different time of year. Both teams have evolved, right? And so there's some similarities in terms of the time off, the extra time to prepare. But at the same time, we know that everybody's fighting for their lives this year and fighting for positioning and trying to see who can make sure that they're playing the best version of basketball that they're capable of, here in late February.
How has Tech evolved?
I think they've kind of established, you always wonder about them defensively. You always worry about how hard they're going to be to score on, but they've gotten a lot more comfortable with their rotation in terms of who's getting shots, where they're getting them from. And so, McClung's always a load to deal with, but Kevin McCullough was just coming back when we played them the first time. Terrence Shannon, I think, was still starting at the time when we played him. He's coming off the bench here lately. So they just kind of move the pieces around to make the unit work as best possible, which is what good coaches do. And obviously Chris Beard is one of the best in the country.
And kind of just different topic. We were talking mixtapes with Avery and Kalib Boone earlier. Did you ever have a mixtape?
No mixtapes. They were mixtapes were literally they were saved for the elite of the elite. And I love my guys, but none of them should have a mixtape yet.
Really? Avery had plenty of them in high school, though.
Yeah, it's kind of the problem. That's part of the reason he shot 12% from three last year.
Okay.
Just work on your game, get better. And obviously, right, a year later, he's improved and hope, but that's the challenge. And I get it, right? Kids want to market themselves and they got social media to help them do that. But I think it's truly a detriment to some of the guys' development because they become inundated or infatuated with themselves and take their eyes off the ball in terms of what they're really trying to achieve in this game. And a lot of times in college is where they finally get that dose of reality, like, hey, that doesn't work.
You recruited Avery obviously pretty hard, but do you hesitate to recruit guys that are big into mixtapes then? Is it?
No, I don't. I mean, if I did that, then I have a hard time recruiting.
Right.
But I do. We are very honest in the recruiting process about what it's going to take to have success. And we let them know from the beginning, this is going to be hard. We're going to make it hard. And, the things that you need to adjust to as a college player need to happen sooner rather than later. Because, again, I mean, I've said it time and time again, a lot of the things that Avery did in high school, it's not that he's not able to do them anymore, but you can't do them as loosely or as freely. You can't take the chances that he was able to take and get away with them at this level. So I won't ever stop recruiting a kid because he has a mistake. That would be a little bit naive on my part. But at the same time, we let him know very, very honestly, hey, here's how this works. And if you want to have success as a part of our program, then some of that stuff you're going to have to leave back in Justin, Texas, or Tulsa, Oklahoma, or wherever it is that it originated at.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike.
Our next question is from Frank. Go ahead, Frank.
Hey, Mike, can it be, I guess, frustrating at times having to go through that process with some of the young guys, explaining that, just because you did it in high school, you can't necessarily do it at this level the way you were doing it?
No, that's not frustrating to me. That's part of my job, right? Just to get them to understand what success really looks like, what the work is. I think it's frustrating, to be honest, for fans, because sometimes what they see in terms of highlights for a kid in high school, they don't see translate very easily in college. And they kind of get down on the process of watching a kid develop into still showing some of that ability, but not the way that they saw it, And sometimes it's just a matter of understanding how to play with other really good players. Sometimes it's a matter of physical conditioning. Sometimes it's a matter of just understanding how defenses guard you as a college player. So I don't get frustrated because I'm very aware of that process. And we're going to continue to recruit high-level high school kids who are going to take time to develop. But I think sometimes just the fans and sometimes because of the fans, the kids hear the frustration that they're not performing at the level that they could be. And so that kind of dilutes what's really being done. And I said it on after Cade's. It's part of the reason why Cade's recruitment, not I guess recruitment too, but he really didn't blow up until late because he doesn't have that type of game. I don't know if Cade has a mixtape. I'm sure somebody has put a highlight together of him now, but he wasn't a mixtape kid, and he was just a worker, and his skill was so advanced. That's what really separated him when he got to this level.
And then before the season, you anticipated that there would be schedule changes and all that, and you said the program that could deal with that uncertainty the most would put themselves in best position. Where do you feel you guys fall in that line and your players dealing with what you guys have dealt with?
Yeah, I think we've done a good job. We've had certainly our share of issues in terms of like now having this game rescheduled. We lost the OU game earlier. It's been rescheduled. But really just focusing on the things that presently are in your control. Today, what we had to do was just have a really good practice and anticipate that our next chance to play would be against Tech and start thinking about how we have success in that game. And our guys haven't been as concerned about the games we've lost or the travel issues. And we've bust a lot more this year than we normally have. We had to stay overnight in Ames after the game because of the weather. This week we played a 3:00 game on a Tuesday because of the weather. So our kids' attitudes have been pretty good. And that's part of the reason I had, in my opinion, a big valley. And we haven't peaked yet either.
And then, I'm got to ask you another Isaac Likely question on where he is and your decision, if you have one yet, on if he's going to play or not.
If I were betting, today's Friday, I think he's going to be ready to go Monday. He practiced yesterday about 75%. Today he went about 80. We got a couple more days to get him up to speed. And I would think he'd be ready to go come Monday.
All right. Appreciate you, Mike.
Our next question is from Marshall Scott. Go ahead, Marshall.
Yeah, Mike, can you tell that the time off has helped Ice in his practices?
Yes. Yeah. And obviously part of that is just having conversation with him because we have a good relationship. He feels like he can be honest. He doesn't have to hide it or I think he wanted to play Tuesday. And if he would have probably had his way, he would have played. He would play some on Tuesday, but again, I have to help himself and keep the big picture in mind for our team, not only for this year, but long term for the program. And so I can see the last 2 days, he's been much better than he was the practices leading up to the Texas and KU games.
And then this has become a little bit of a weekly thing, but any word on the West Virginia or Baylor games?
No, the league will decide that whenever the time is. Again, I know that week is open. I guess we've already kind of moved a game into that week, if you will, if you're talking about the OU game. So I don't know. I mean, just kind of stepping back and looking at it from the outside, there's a lot of games that need to still be played. So rather than me try to figure it out for the league, there are people who get paid to do it. I let them do it. We'll play when they tell us that we can play.
I think I saw somewhere that you guys kind of recruited Mac McClung out of the transfer portal. What did you know about him as a high school player, if anything?
I know a lot about Mac. So Mac played on Team Loaded's program with some other guys that we had recruited. Dave McCormick and he were teammates. Armando Baycott, who's at North Carolina now. Isaiah Todd. Those guys all played in the same program. So I knew Mac pretty well. Obviously, he was always a pretty electric player, athletic kid. And I didn't think he'd go far from home. But obviously, when you're doing it a second time, you kind of got to let go of some of those parameters to go find the best situation. And we made a call in there, and obviously he thought it'd be best to go to Lubbock.
We talk about the mixtapes and stuff earlier. Why do you think it was that he maybe wasn't as highly regarded as a recruit, even though he's breaking scoring records, he has all these highlight dunks and stuff? Why do you think he maybe wasn't as highly regarded as he was?
It's hard for me to speak for everybody, but I think one of the things that you kind of calculate as a coach is what translates, like where and what fits for you, right? I don't know if Avery Anderson is as successful in a different style of play. Really good player, really good for us. I'm glad he's here. And so it's more of a narrower fit for different guys. Like Cade Cunningham literally could close his eyes and point to any page in the collegiate directory. Even if he didn't fit before he decided to go there, they'd fit that square peg into that round hole somehow, right? They shave the edges, they make it a little jagged on the corners, like they figure it out. But with some guys, who aren't as dynamic, you really consider the fit and how you want to play and whether it works. And obviously he had a decent year at Georgetown. I thought he played well. He kicked our butts. But for whatever reason, didn't work out.
And then you obviously recruit in person more so than, off highlight packages or anything like that. But what parts of Avery's game that you maybe see in those high school highlights does he still translate? Obviously his speed, something like that, but like something along those lines.
Yeah, like for me, the thing, and it's kind of with him, Bryce and Avery, Rondell, like they have unbelievable feet. Like it's a really small thing that probably most lay fans are like, what the heck are you talking about? Like they have unbelievable feet. Like they can change direction, they can move laterally, and they can get off the floor as quickly as anybody. And they all have very, very good anticipation skills. And some of the things that you don't see them do as well, you wonder, can you develop? Like Avery didn't shoot a lot of jump shots in high school because no one could stay in front of him. But I saw him in practice and after practices working on it. And I thought, you know what, if we have some time with this kid, we can develop into a decent shooter from three. But does he have the work ethic? Does he want to be coached? Does he want to accept that he's not the best version of himself yet and is going to allow you to challenge him and push him past what has already shown to be successful for him? And so those are things, just kind of nuance that you look at. What kind of basketball IQ do they have? How competitive a kid is, which is really hard to tell on the highlight tape because there's no adversity. You can't tell a kid's competitive until you see him face a challenging situation. And I love watching kids not win. Not that I don't want them to win, but I want to see how they respond to being challenged. So I enjoyed watching the Boones play at Memorial. I enjoyed more watching them get their butts kicked playing on the AAU circuit in Ann Arbor. All right, they played against Precious Achua. I remember watching the game like it was yesterday. And I think Precious had like the first 10 points and the first 10 rebounds and the first 5 blocks of the game. And Kalib was looking around like, what the heck? I've never seen a kid like this in the state of Oklahoma. So you want to see those things because you want to see how they respond, what kind of things you can develop in them and see, ultimately what they can handle as a college player.
And then this is the last thing for me. In a normal year, this is about the time we'd start asking you, do you talk to your team about the NCAA tournament? Obviously, there's a lot of factors that maybe you wouldn't this year, that you wouldn't start to have that conversation. But do you have those conversations with the team? Or are you saying, hey, this one's important for that?
Not necessarily a game, right? I don't know about putting specific pressure on one game because then you run the risk. What if you lose the game, right? Because it's possible. So you really just talk about, let's get better. And yeah, we have conversations about the tournament. That's a goal this team wants to accomplish. And it's our job to play well enough that if we don't have to deal with the other stuff, that we go there and we're prepared not to just be in it. We want to win. And what things you have to do. We talked about the turnovers for a few weeks. They've started to kind of trend back down. And those are the things that you really focus on, because if we do that, the big picture stuff in our minds take care of themselves.
Appreciate it.
Looks like we have a follow-up from Jacob. Go ahead, Jacob.
Yeah, Mike, you mentioned the Baylor and West Virginia games earlier. It looks like, just from the outside looking in, I don't know if the Big 12 is talking with Baylor or not, but Baylor is going to really struggle to get all their games in. Were you concerned? I know coaches were concerned about that for seeding in the Big 12 tournament going before the season and stuff. Was that a concern of yours, of not getting every game in, or a team getting 6 less than someone else, but them being undefeated or something like that? Was that a concern for you?
Yeah, I mean, the competitor in you is, of course, you want to have as much competitive balance as possible. But before we started the season, we knew it was going to be hard to attain. You just didn't know how big of a range you were really going to have to deal with. Let's be honest. Baylor's been the best team in the league this year. They've only played 9 games, and I'm assuming they got some health issues. Just assume that they're having some issues. Can they play 9 games since December to now, and then play 9 more games in 2.5 weeks?
Mm-hmm.
It's not, right. So now here's the question: can anyone catch them? I think the next closest team has 4 losses.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, so we'll see. I mean, they'll play 3 or 4 more games, and I guess at the end of the next 2 weeks, we'll figure out, do they really need to play? Or do we think they're going to lose 5 or 6 games and not win the league? I don't know. But I don't worry about it either. I got to get my team ready to play Texas Tech on Monday.
That's fair. So on a different topic, you mentioned Cade obviously was a late bloomer. I don't think you and I have talked about this, but how big was Montverde for him? How much did he grow and change there as a player?
Yeah, I'm going to be careful here a little bit, because I don't want to disrespect traditional high school coaches and programs.
Mm-hmm.
But it's much, the transition to college was easier for Cade, because every day in practice at Montverde, the guys were just as good. Well, he was the best guy, but there were 3 other McDonald's All-Americans on the team. That doesn't happen in high school. So just having that challenge every day, where you do have to make sure you're getting better, otherwise your teammates are good enough to beat you one-on-one, or whatever. And so I think that, and Kevin Boyle as a high school coach has proven he's got a way of helping maximize kids like this, going all the way back to the late 90s when he had a kid named Al Harrington. May not know that name, but obviously he's from New Jersey. And so I grew up watching him, and he was at St. Pat's with him. Then he had Kyrie and Gilchrist, and then he went there and he had, Ben Simmons and D'Angelo Russell. I mean, just his experience helping those guys get where they wanted to go certainly aided Cade in his ability to step on campus and be able to go have success, but understand how to keep it in context.
You mentioned Kevin. What's different about him? What makes him the right guy for these kind of players?
And I don't know if it's just him, but first of all, he's got incredible credibility now, right? It's almost like the high school version of like Coach K and Coach Cal. Like, they've had so many guys who've achieved at such a high level. You want to go, right? You go to a heart surgeon. Hey, who's the best guy? I can't take a chance here, right? And so I think that gives him credibility, but he's a hell of a coach. He knows the game. He played the game at a high level, and he's got a great passion for it. So he's well respected at every level of basketball.
Have you ever seen a team like they had last year?
In high school, no.
Awesome.
It was, and I watched them a lot, obviously. So,
yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Mike.
I'm going to say this, and I probably shouldn't because it's unnecessary, but I'm going to say it just because Kate probably needs to know that I know that there were days he wasn't the best player there. The freshman at Florida State, and we know what good job Coach Ham does, Scotty Barnes is pretty damn good. We tried to take a swing at him early too, but that one got a little bit too far for us.
Awesome. Thanks.
Frank, did you have a follow-up? Go ahead.
Yeah, talking to some of Cade's older teammates or former teammates, it sounds like he's always been, one of the biggest cheerleaders for his guys, which isn't always the case for a player of his status. What does that say about how he approaches the game and just kind of the individual that he is beyond the court?
It's truly been, and I've said this before, one of the best parts of the experiences for me. His humility, the way he is with his teammates, and in some ways, it's led to some of his critics' voices being louder because, like, certainly there were games we played early in the year that he could have scored a lot more if he just put his mind to it and focused on, hey, I'm going to try to get 30 points. Pretty hard for people to stop him. But he wants his teammates to have and share in that success. He wants our team to win. And so whatever it is that he can do to win, because long-term, we talked about Ice's impact on helping Cade as well, the more guys that we have that are confident and comfortable going out there and making plays with him, the more success we're going to have, because now teams can't just decide, we're just going to send two guys at him. And those other guys aren't good enough. When Cade continues to uplift them, give them confidence, and they're already good. In many ways, Avery might be one of the biggest beneficiaries of Cade's presence, and people were worried about whether Avery would play this year, right? And he's had as good a year. I think he's the most improved player in the conference. And a lot of that has to do with him playing with a guy who can elevate his play. So his ability as a teammate is the thing that sticks out the most to me.
Is he a little beyond his years in maturity in that sense of knowing that my best game may not always be what's best for the team in terms of scoring and statistic numbers?
Yeah, I mean, he knows he has to have an impact on the game, and he knows he's going to have the ball in his hands to make plays. What he can't get caught up in is trying to take all the shots because that's what everyone else thinks he should do. And you got to, I mean, he's playing at a pretty high level. And the thing that he probably was criticized the most for coming into the season is as a three-point shooter, and he's the best three-point shooter on our team. And one of the best in the league. I mean, his numbers are really, really good. And so it just goes to show you that he's got incredible work ethic. He respects his teammates and the process of having a successful team. And it's the reason why he's going to be successful here, but also in the NBA, because he's going to play the same way when he gets to that level.
Thank you, Mike.
Marshall, do you have a follow-up? Go ahead.
Yeah, Mike, this is totally off the topic of what we've been talking about, but there's been reports out that Gonzaga and BYU are considered opting out of their conference tournament. As a team that could be on the bubble, how does that kind of hit your ear, considering maybe another team wins the WCC and gets another tournament spot?
I don't know if I'm thinking about being on the bubble. Again, let's get prepared as much as we can and play well against Tech, and let's take care of what we can control. I don't, as far as conference tournaments, I don't know. Everybody's kind of got to decide what they think's best for their league. And I think the Big 12 probably has to have the same type of discussion. I'm sure we are. It's just not a conversation that I'm in the room for.
Do you think that this year maybe opens a door of saying like, hey, maybe we don't have to get all these games in all the time? Because there's obviously the COVID cancellations. There's been weather cancellations here recently. Teams are thinking about opting out of tournaments. Do you think that this kind of opens a door of maybe this happening more frequently down the road?
It could. I think it more speaks to the variation in leadership across the country. Right? We kind of talked about this with scheduling early on. Like Big 12 doing this, well, the West Coast Conference is doing something different, but we're all trying to get to the tournament. And does there need to be some parameters from the NCAA level to say, hey, here are some minimums that you got to reach? And then again, still got to let the leagues kind of make the decision on how best to get whatever number of representatives in the event that they can. I know some leagues have changed how they're rewarding their automatic qualifier for the tournament. So who knows? We'll see.
All right, appreciate it.
Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Coach, and best of luck on Monday.
Thanks a lot. Guys, have a great weekend. Stay safe, be warm.